I would like to talk more about your personal English journey because it's quite impressive to me that, I mean, from an English learner, Dorota, to an English teacher, and on top of that, you are running your own English academy, which
Not
is
yet.
amazing.
About to. Yes, it's not yet. Okay.
Okay, it's in the works, and
Yes.
and
In the process.
yeah, I would like to know in this interview which were your problems in this journey. Were there any obstacles? What methods did you use? And yeah, maybe at first you could introduce yourself a little bit.
Okay, so I'm Dorota. I'm from Poland, and I'm here all the time. I live in Poland. I've never moved abroad, really. I wanted to for so many years. I've wanted to, to live maybe, I don't know, in the US or maybe in England, but it never happened. My family is quite, say, connected with this place, and I can't leave them. So for now, at least, we are here, and so this is who I am. So I'm an English teacher. I work currently. I work at school. This is the secondary school, and I teach English. All the levels really, but mostly now I teach, say, 15-year-olds up to 19-year-olds. This is like the people that I teach now. But I'm about to open my own school of English, and it's to happen in September this year. So I'm about to teach more levels and to teach more, like a wider, let's say, range, age group, let's say. So this is the plan, but it's still in the process, and we'll see about that. Hopefully, with a good, outcome.
And the name of the academy or the school is Dragon, right?
Yeah, it's
How
Dragon.
come?
Yeah. So the history of this name, because obviously I wanted to come up with the name that would say an easy declination in Polish, because Polish is such a language that we have this declination. And for example, let me give you an example. Gdzie? W dragonie. Do dragona, so to dragon, in dragon. In English, it's all the same, but for me, I wanted it to be a two-syllable. I wanted it to have some, relation to the culture. I know that we also have a Chinese dragon, so my logo looks like this, that it's quite, indicative of the culture that I am preferring. So I mean, English-speaking countries and culture. Also, there are these movies like Shrek, for example, where you have a dragon. You have How to Train the Dragon, by the way, a great book, and then the movie. I started with the book, honestly, not with the movie. And recently, our friend, we have a friend in the chat box, Eva Lux. She sent a video to me about these dragons, which are the guardians of the city of London. So, I honestly didn't think how many different roles, let's say, dragons have. And
Cool.
I think it's a great name, and it gives me like, it's almost like an inexhaustible source of material for me to expand on. Even when it comes to my, let's say, future page development, school development, kids like dragons, to adults like dragons. So yeah, I think it's a great name, and also for the Polish language, it was quite important that the Polish people can say it, can understand it, and that it's doesn't pose any difficulty, let's say, in the declination in my language.
Yeah. You picked quite a cool name, indeed. Yeah, I like that.
I hope so. Yeah.
So, Dorota, where did your passion come from, or when it all began?
Okay.
Why English?
Yeah, I think that I come, back in time. I come from a communist country, and back then we didn't have any access really to English as such. Obviously, we didn't have the internet, but we didn't even have the telephone in my house, for example. But it's like, very, very a long time ago, let's say. But so, as you probably know, my country back then was quite poor with little access to anything. So the only, let's say, luxury we saw on television, and probably it started with the MTV era when we finally could see some, I don't know, music videos, or I don't know, some TV series like Dynasty. Let's say it's not the best series, but it showed us the world, mostly the American one, but not only, also some British series of films. So the world that we didn't really have access to. I remember that my first passport I got at the age of, I think, 17. And it was then that I took my first journey, a short trip. When kids now in Poland, they are not even 1 year old, and they even travel with their parents, where the parents obviously want to take them. So for me, English was like the window to the world. And probably I liked it as well. So the sound of it, there are people who will say they don't like English, so they don't like the sound, or I don't know, maybe this expansion of the language, of the culture. It's quite dominant here as well. I can see it, but I don't mind really. So yeah, it started with probably this urge to go somewhere, to travel, to see the world. And, I've had it up to now that when I am to pick the place to go on holiday, I will always go, the farther, the better for me. So
Yeah.
I enjoy traveling a lot. I enjoy talking to people. I've always wanted to talk to other people from other cultures, which was impossible, obviously, back then in Poland. And I loved reading. So this is also probably one of the reasons, let's say, because I read a lot, extensively, and it was the only, say, hobby, pastime available back then. So I was an avid reader, and I wanted to read those books since I loved the language as such. I loved my Polish language as well, so I wanted to read those books in the original versions, and yeah, so the descriptions of the world, the English-speaking world presented, it was just, awesome. I wanted to see it. I wanted to understand. I wanted to immerse in the culture, in the language, in the life of the people. So, yeah, this is just,
And
to the
and
introduction.
was it easy for you in the beginning to speak in English?
No, so speak I didn't really, because I had no one to speak to. And I remember my first lessons. And it was by the Polish teacher in the Polish school. And, the books were quite boring. The lessons were quite traditional. So I think it took like an enormous interest on my part to continue, because back back then, I'm sorry, back then, not as I said, we didn't have such access to interesting materials, and well, to listen to English or to read something interesting, to get a good an original book, or I don't know, a newspaper, it was impossible. So then I went to the secondary school. In the secondary school, we had, I remember this book, it was Headway, and I loved it. It was so modern for me, it was so different from the books that I knew, but still,
But is it
we didn't.
rather business English?
No, it was still like
No?
English, it was English, general English, let's say.
Okay.
But, the level, well, it wasn't that high, obviously. So, in fact, I took my final exam in English, but I can't say I knew English at all. So it took some time, some effort. And finally, I decided to to cut the long story short, I decided to take the C2 exam, which I did, and I passed. And afterwards, I went to
C2.
C2, the proficiency. So
Yeah.
it was before my studies.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
It was a long time ago. But then I decided to finally, to wrap it up. And I went to study English. We call it English philology. I'm not sure about your country. You're from Switzerland, right?
Yes, exactly.
So we call it English philology, English studies, whatever. And so I studied 5 years. I was first a bachelor, then the master. And it was then that I, got into it, like got to the core of the language, which I wanted to from the very beginning. I cared for the pronunciation. I cared for the fluency. I cared for being quite correct, for being, quite accurate. So I wanted to know this language. I didn't want to be the constant learner, but you are. The fact that you're a teacher doesn't mean that you don't learn. So I learn every day. I learn from my students. I learn from people like you, like from everyone who I know. I will always learn something. So it's so important to have friends here, to have friends abroad with whom you can speak, with whom you can exchange experiences. It's great, really. So yeah, I'm still a learner, although I am a teacher as well. So, yeah. Two roles combined now.
I love that mindset. But tell me a little bit more specific. How could you improve your speaking when there was not that much resources available?
Yeah.
And maybe back in the time it was not possible to have Zoom meetings get your speaking practice. So how exactly did you get better in speaking?
Yeah, so it was the most difficult part. And honestly, I remember like the whole years of classes where we didn't speak at all. So we did reading tasks. We did obviously reading aloud. We listened to some recordings, not too many of them. But honestly, we didn't speak, and I didn't speak for many years, I think, with anyone apart from, just, I don't know, ABCD, doing this kind of tasks, let's say. And then when I went to university, so as I said, it was right after I took the C2 exam, and at the C2 course, I had this great teacher. Let me tell you this: all of my teachers that influenced me, like to the greatest extent, all of them were Polish. I can like enumerate 3-4 greatest teachers ever, all of them Polish. So this is also great. It's really with this, urge now to talk to native speakers. Obviously, for me, in the past, it used to be, let's say, I don't know how to call it, debilitating, or it used to be my aim to talk to English speakers like only. Now, I don't mind. It doesn't really matter anymore, as long as the person has, I don't know, common interests, let's say, with the person. I have something to talk about with them. It doesn't really matter. So it has changed for me. I know that there are so many people who will want to speak.
Yeah, because I think people are kind of obsessed sometimes.
Yes.
They just want to talk to people who are native speakers.
I totally agree with you. It's it's a great word, obsession. Yeah. That you used.
Yeah.
Yeah. So absolutely. So I
and and you're these days you're still like practicing or like giving speeches. I am referring to the Facebook groups, the chat box, and often, because I watched a couple of videos of yourself and they are pretty cool. For example, there is a video in which you participated. It's called Off the Cuff,
Yes.
in which you have to give a speech without any preparation. And it inspired me a lot because you can even drive a car, whereas you are giving these short speech, and it's just brilliant and amazing. I also do it from time to time, and I also did it while walking, but I would
remember.
not do it while driving because I'm not that much of a speaker.
Yeah, I think it only
Yeah.
takes practice, nothing else. So I am used to driving and speaking because honestly, at home here, I have really poor, let's say, access to the internet and everything. So whatever the call I'm trying to make, I'm just going outside. And whenever I drive, I call my mom or I call, I don't know, my friends. So it's just normal for me to drive and talk. Obviously, I'm using, the headset or something. So I never, do it like this. It's forbidden in my country. But yeah, we can drive and talk to people on the phone using the set. So I'm quite used to it. And for me, English is like almost, it will never be my language. This is obvious for me, but it's almost like it was my language. So I feel it, when I speak it, it's just natural for me. I know that I hesitate, which I do in my language as well. So.
But then it is your language.
Yeah,
when it's natural to you.
It is
so,
natural.
In my opinion, you could say that it is your language.
Yeah.
So you can have two languages.
Yeah, although I wasn't born into this family of the bilingual family, but I think you can hone your skills to such a way that you are almost like a native speaker. And when you talk to native speakers from Kenya, for example, from I don't know, South Africa, from Australia, from Canada, all of them, they are native speakers. They were born into this language, and yet they sound different. They use different words or expressions. For example, the Kenyan language, English language, is so much influenced by Swahili, and still, this is their language. This is more like their language than it is mine. Yeah. So who are we to decide who's a native speaker, who's not, who speaks better, who speaks worse? It's about what you have to say, what kind of person you are, and not, the perfect, what is perfect even when it comes to pronunciation. We don't know that. So I know there are language purists. I'm not such a person. And yeah, I think I lost my train of thought. You were saying something, and I went a different direction.
No worries.
So,
no,
yeah.
I mean, I couldn't agree more with you. I think the problem is that sometimes society or the language community has a certain expectation, or it's just the way how it works, that, or a lot of people are biased, right? They think that maybe native speakers from such and such country is more capable of teaching you than someone else.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, it's not true. It's not true. In my opinion, or my best teacher that I had comes from Chile, actually.
Yeah.
And he is not a native speaker. He learned it, and he's a translator, but it was just awesome.
Yes.
Everything was awesome, and I could learn a lot from him.
Yes.
So
totally, I agree. So I remember some native speakers, because obviously when I studied English, then we had some say lecturers from the US, from Canada. There was one from Britain, but the best talks, it wasn't with the. It was with the Polish teachers in English. Or now, when I have the best talks, I really don't care. There's this guy from Bangladesh. We had this conversation. There are two girls in Malfen from Russia. We also had these talks. Great, really, so inspiring. Or Bilal from Malfen and from the chat box now as well. So he's from. oh my goodness, not Morocco, but Tunisia. So a great speaker with so many interests. So yeah, and do you have a conversation, and the time flies with those people. So what more do you want? Really, it's not
Exactly.
the pronunciation. When I listen to podcasts, I hear this perfect pronunciation. I learn a lot from them. I still want to sound the best possible, the best that I can. I do care about it, but it's not that I, demand that other people do the same. So yeah.
So speaking of podcasts,
Yeah.
can you recommend some podcasts, or can you tell us something about your favorite podcast maybe?
Yeah. So there are plenty. And honestly, this whole pandemic, situation, apart from, many disadvantages of it, one of the advantages was that I had as if more time. And whenever I walk my dogs, I take my headphones or earphones. Before, I didn't do that really. And now this is how I learned to listen to podcasts extensively. So I listen to podcasts every day. And
In English?
yes, in English, in Spanish, also in Italian, some in German, because I also try to learn, but yeah, from time to time.
Cool.
Yeah, I like languages a lot. But obviously, English is the only language that I can speak to that extent. I don't hold out, any hopes that I can speak another language apart from this one like that. But yeah, I have my favorite English podcasts because this is about English. So what I like most, I like listening to interviews because this is where you can listen to the most natural language ever. So I like the interviews, for example, by Conan O'Brien. He's from America. I think he's of Irish descent. Uh, he's a flamboyant speaker, I would say. So he uses a wide range of good vocab. He has a great sense of humor. This is also quite important, that the person has a sense of humor. For me, that it's funny, that it's interesting, that it's involving. So he has this podcast. It's Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, and he talks to people having fun, but also sometimes touching upon some quite important subjects, like, for example, I don't know, racism or I don't know, some difficult the Ukraine situation, some serious subjects as well. Then I talked about it in before. It's Desert Island Discs. So this time it's from Britain. Many seasons, many episodes. Also great podcast with great people. Like anyone you can imagine, famous people like Ray Fiennes, for example, or I don't know, Mark Gatiss. I don't know, so many different speakers there. And also some good British this time speakers. So I like to listen to these interviews as well. And let me tell you this, sometimes when you teach from the books also, because I also teach from the books, I don't want to, hide this fact, let's say. So sometimes they will say, well, they don't use it, they don't use this grammar, they don't use this vocab. And they use everything. They will use the third conditional. They will use, I wish I had done it. I wish I had done it, right? Or I wish I had something. So they will use all the constructions. They will use all the vocab whenever the situation, it's, say, or whenever the situation requires for them to use this particular, say, structure. So I wouldn't say that the language that we teach, because we are not native speakers, that we teach some unnatural language. And there are so many words in my language, in Polish, that I understand. I never use them, but I know the context. I understand them, like you do in German, like everyone. So I think, well, why not know this one? Because you would not use it, on a daily basis, but still, the more you know, the better for you. So when I listen to these podcasts, I sometimes go and say, oh my goodness, this is this book, this is upstream, I don't know, C1, this is this unit about this particular stuff. They use,
so cool.
everything. Yeah. They will use any construction, any language that some people will find unnatural, or the one that is not used anymore. So yeah, it depends. If you want to, for example, I don't know, show some sense of humor, want to be, I don't know, ironic, you would use certain structures that you wouldn't normally. It depends on the speaker, on the context, on the situation, on the topic. Okay, then we have the Ezra Klein show. This is like one of the latest, say, discoveries. John Peacock recommended it to me. Again, great interviews also with some speakers who are not native speakers. So from Ukraine, for example, he had this great interview about the situation in Ukraine and how we don't understand. He's from America, so even a more different, approach, perspective. How we cannot understand this, say, conflict more to therefore. Then obviously Luke's English podcast. I love the guy. He's a great comedian. He's a great actor, I would say, and a great English speaker. And what I like, he also runs these interviews. I remember his interview with his dad about Brexit. Not only, a great source of knowledge when it comes to some mechanisms behind Brexit, but also the perspective of the person who wanted England, Britain, to stay. Which they didn't, obviously. But, I don't know, talking about economy, about culture. So great, really a great speaker. Also, he talked to a Polish guy, I remember some time ago, a teenager, I think it was, but a great talk it was. The guy had a vast knowledge.
I think it came from the WISBOLEP competition, I think, because he had a competition which was called WISBOLEP, why I should be on Luke's English podcast or something like that.
That's the one.
And then the first 10, I think, or 15, I can't remember, but he interviewed them. So he made for everyone a single episode, and it was so amazing to hear more about these listeners of Luke and different stories from them.
And
also, also I wanted to mention, because the very first podcast that you mentioned about Conan O'Brien, this is a nice coincidence, because this was one of the first resources that I came into contact with back in the day when my older brother watched television, and it was a program from America, and he loved it. He watched it, and I could not understand English back then, but I remember that he was one of his favorite, because he had like a talk show or a night show, or I can't remember exactly.
Yes, you're right.
And this was many years ago, and back in the day, it was not so common to have the possibility to watch something in English. So it was the same in my case. I was not able to listen to podcasts or something like that, because it didn't exist back then.
Yeah. So I can totally relate to what you say. I think that Conan was also behind. He was a great writer, so he was behind many trial scripts for the TV series as well. I don't remember if it was South Park or if it was The Simpsons. Probably it was The Simpsons. Now I can't seem to recall. But a great writer, and then a great comedian. A rich source of information when it comes to the language and also the culture. So he's a great guy, really. Not everyone likes him, I think. Some people will find him maybe too, I don't know, overbearing maybe. I don't know really, but for me, as a language learner, a great source. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I really love interviews as well. One of my favorites is Lex Friedman. And his interviews, they go on and on and on. They can go on over 2 hours or 3 hours, and it's just crazy.
So what does he talk about? I don't know this guy. Later, I will take notes of what you're saying.
Yeah, so he talks about, for example, philosophy, but also about a lot of digital issues or machine learning. And so in one hand it's technical, and on the other hand it's not technical at all. He invites many different guests. So for example, Elon Musk was there many times.
Mm-hmm.
I think Joe Rogan, I
Oh,
guess, and so many well-known people, and they are talking really about things that we would not know about them in another resource. I
yeah.
think that people there are very open, really. So it's really amazing and special.
I need to remember this
But
one. Sounds so interesting. So I will add it to,
yeah,
is it Lex Friedman, you say?
yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Sounds interesting. So I
Yes.
will check it out. I listen mostly on Spotify. I don't know about you, but I use Spotify
No,
like that. Mhm.
I mostly listen on. It is called Podcast Addict.
Ah, okay.
It's an app
Mm-hmm.
because there I can put like reading marks or
Oh.
listening marks. I can make notes, right? So
Mm-hmm.
every time when I come across an expression that I want to learn, then I put a mark on it, and I can write something down also. And then I have like a catalog with all of my vocabulary that I want to
Great.
focus on.
Great.
Yes.
I only have, I will show you these, oh, I don't have it here. Someone took it away. Oh, never mind. But yeah, I have these, notebooks where I take
Oh, yeah.
notes and, yeah, some vocab. So I have plenty all over the house with, I don't know, German vocab, English vocab, Spanish vocab. So yeah, just
Cool,
collecting
cool.
it, all of it. But sounds interesting. The podcast that you mentioned. Thank you for the recommendation. I was hoping that you would have some recommendation for me as well. I'm always on the lookout, for the new recommendations. So, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Let me check my notes.
Okay.
Yeah. So social media. So because on my last episode 110, I had a discussion with a friend of mine from Brazil,
Mhm.
with Charles, and we talked about different methods on social media on how to become a better English speaker. So my question is, what do you think about social media to learn English? So, for example, I mean, we mentioned already Facebook, so we know that you are a member of different groups.
Yes.
What is your take on social media to
Well,
learn languages?
I would say the social media as such, I have a bittersweet, let's say, attitude to it. But in the pandemic, like I said before, it helped me enormously to, to not maybe to survive, but to gain new experience, to talk to new people from me back then, to get some, new friends. At the time when we didn't really, get out of the house. And obviously, when it comes to English, for me, this is the best. And I think the only source, the place where I live, I don't know any native. I don't know almost any foreigner, and no foreigners who would speak English. So I have to, let's say, acquaintances who are from Peru and they live here, but they don't speak English with me. We mostly speak Polish or Spanish. But when it comes to people around me here, no one speaks English, and there's no one with whom I could practice. Obviously, I'm not talking about the school. I'm talking about more natural situations. So, when it comes to my profession, this is basically the only source of people, let's say, of this real contact with the real language. And I only use Facebook. I don't have Twitter. I don't have Instagram. Not yet. Maybe I will have to, open an account for the sake of my company, let's say the school, but not yet. I wouldn't like to have too many profiles. I'd like to, honestly, Facebook would be enough for me, but I know that many people in different age groups, they will make use of different social media, say, resources, let's call it. So TikTok, never never had. I don't. I've heard of it, but never used it really. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, for me, it would be enough to make use of what I have. I think that the choice now is too big, and we have too many different,
Yes.
outlets to choose from. Uh, but yeah, that's
It
the
can
sign of
be
times.
overwhelming,
Yes,
right?
it is
It can
overwhelming.
overwhelm us.
Yes, yes. So at some point, I decided to. Obviously, it's impossible to avoid scrolling because you will always find something interesting. But I decided to reduce my, say, presence a bit. And if I am there, I want to be more. Um, I want to be present more in this particular place to do this particular thing. So, for example, I go to Mouth. I know I go to their chat box to check whether someone has posted something, or to post my video, or to post my conversation. To talk to the people I know, to meet new people, but I'm trying to not to, at least currently, I'm trying not to join any new groups, because what I have so far is plenty, is more than enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that it's a bit sometimes distracting, and yeah, I'm trying
Exactly.
to avoid that, because we also have other, fields, realms, I don't know, in life, and basically this is the area that takes like the most of it, of time, and of I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
intellectual resources. So yeah, we have to live,
Absolutely.
we have to work, and yeah, I don't know, maybe read something
Yeah.
from time to time.
And by the way, I also had interviews with different members of the chat box and of MAUF and Masters of English. For example, Roberto from Italy,
Mm-hmm.
he explained the game of the cuff
Mm-hmm.
on episode 66. And I had Omar from Ecuador.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember which number. I think it was 98,
Mm-hmm.
in which he explained his language journey. And I had also Gabriel from Spain.
Nice.
And it's just amazing to get in touch with people and to connect and exchange.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
Without even leaving your house. This is great. Obviously, I like to leave my house, and I like to go to travel, as I said. But if I can't do it, and honestly, I can do it, I don't know, 2-3 times maybe a year. That's it. So yeah, this is like almost like traveling. When I know that you, for example, are sitting now in Switzerland. It gives, I don't know, brain to your imagination. I don't know if this is the correct expression, but the imagination runs wild. You can, have so many different
Yes,
associations, and yeah, at least build some images. It's so evocative, these talks. So yeah.
absolutely. So I forgot to ask you something related to podcasts because today I will have another interview
Yes.
with Vincent and no Vince with Vince,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently he uses podcasts to learn languages,
Mm-hmm.
and he listens to them sometimes double the speed and sometimes 3 times the speed. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think about that idea, and did it occur to you that you listen to an episode maybe with a faster
Mm-hmm.
speed?
And no, because I like to relish, in what I'm listening to. I like to enjoy it, so I want it to be, the equivalent of what it was or it is in real life. So no, I
Yeah,
don't do that. If it's too, okay, I will say it. If it's too easy for me, or if it's too, um, say boring, then I just skip it. But
yeah,
no, I never do that. The same applies to movies. I never do the double speed or 3 times speed, because um, it means that I simply don't enjoy the movie or the TV series. If I don't, I just skip it. I
yeah,
go to something else. So, um, like we now, we have these hesitations, we have these doubts. Sometimes we make a mistake. This is pretty natural for me. I don't, I'm not ashamed, really, ever. Well, when I make a mistake, it's just natural. I make mistakes in Polish as well. So I want it to be as natural as possible. And um, it's not like that it's a goal to achieve, or I don't know, something to finish, to complete, and the next one and the next one and the next one. So I prefer to slow down, to relish the moment rather than, to I don't know, to complete the mission or something.
Yeah.
So no, this is not my
Because
thing.
something gets lost, right? Because it's not the original voice
Yes.
anymore when you speed it up. But nevertheless, I'm gonna show you how it
Okay.
how this is like,
Okay.
because maybe you will hear it right now. 1 second.
Okay.
Or maybe not.
At least I can't hear
No.
anything. No.
Yeah, it doesn't work. What a pity.
No, you can just, if you can send me an excerpt, then I can listen to it later.
Okay, yeah, I will send it afterwards. It was actually from Luke's English podcast,
Okay.
a little excerpt, which I have speeded it up, and it sounded so funny.
Yeah,
But-
it does. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
An order or an accepted way of behaving, you deliberately don't obey it or don't follow it. So it
yeah, so it's
deliberately
flouting the maxims.
But I like the fact that you've got flaunting in there as well, because flaunt is close, but it's like if you flaunt something, it's basically showing off. Yeah. So
I like
for you,
that.
I love that, because for you, if you're breaking the rules, it's like not only are you flouting the rules, like breaking them, but you're also flaunting, like, hey everybody, I'm breaking the rules.
For me, that had both those meanings.
Yeah, you combine them together. But that's good.
Yeah. Okay, Dorota, and maybe you can tell us about your future plans.
Okay, so obviously continue doing what I do. So, recording the videos, doing this off-the-cuff activity, I find it great. When I see a difficult topic, some topics really I have nothing to say, but I say, okay, whatever. I have to do it. So maybe it will be boring. It needs to be quite short. So this is definitely the goal when it comes to recordings. It can't be too long, because then people will lose interest. So even 3 minutes of discussing the thing that you know nothing about, or next to nothing. I believe this is something that we should. And by the way, since I told you that I am also learning or trying to learn Spanish and German, this is my goals really. I would like to find more time. I'm not really sure if it's possible for me. I have so much on my plate really, but if possible, I'd like to maybe work on these languages. And I've never recorded a video in Spanish or in German. And I think this is since I am doing it, on a daily basis almost in English, I don't know why I don't do it in Spanish or in German. See, I learned these languages. So my plans mostly concern, obviously, the school, coming up with new ideas of how to run classes, of how to make it more interesting, more involving, but also how to make it more useful in terms of it being quite correct, let's say, because this nowadays approach of not caring at all about grammar, hating grammar, I'm not really the fan of this say solution. I myself in Polish know how we value good speakers and how we value, let's say, poor speakers. The same applies to any language. It's not that I'm not a native speaker, so I can't say it properly. I care for this, for being correct, more or less. And this nowadays approach that you can learn anything. Why do we do it so fast? I can't understand it. We have, the whole life in front of us. So we don't have to rush so much. You can slow down. You can use maybe easier structures, but you can also do it properly, or at least try. So this is my plan. I'm not talking about others. I know that many people hate grammar. I do like it and I appreciate it. I find meaning in it. So I want it to be quite correct, quite good. Still working on my pronunciation, still working on the fluency, still working on the connected speech, and still working on other languages, still working on my school project. This is my plans. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. And maybe you could combine those things, like a grammar book, and then like a podcast, and then you can show, or you can combine it and say, look, this is exactly what we see in this episode.
Yes.
This is
it.
Future tense, or I don't know, but you can combine both, because in my opinion, it's ridiculous to say that grammar we should not focus on grammar, because I mean, now when we are speaking together,
Yes.
it's all about grammar.
Yes.
We are using grammar automatically. So that's why I think that it's not good to say don't use grammar. In my opinion, we should strike a balance.
Yes.
A good balance, and use both, right?
Imagine your
Yeah.
language or my language without grammar. It's impossible. So there's so much meaning in it. It's just, I don't know, grammar has this bad reputation for some reason. Maybe it's because of how it's taught, mostly from the books, lots of exercises. Honestly, this is how I learned it. Automatization, let's call it, and lots of repetitive tasks. And now it's, like ingrained in my head, in my mind, and I don't think I will ever forget it. So it required lots of training, but it gives you confidence. If you know that what you're saying makes sense and you can, place it in relation to time, I think it's something that gives you great self-confidence while speaking. And if you don't know the language and you always hesitate, is it correct, is it not, then you lose this track, maybe. So maybe, in fact, being more precise, also grammatically, maybe it would give maybe more confidence to speakers. I know that many people will disagree with me, because not everything is about the time. The faster, the better. I've never been this kind of person, and I don't think I will. It's too late for me now, and I don't want to. So I think that the method that I chose was good, and it functions for me. So yeah, I don't want to change it.
Yeah. Well, there is no right or wrong journey, in my opinion.
Yes.
Everyone has to find his own
Yes.
journey.
You're right.
Yeah, thank you so much,
Thank
Dorota.
you.
It was really cool to listen to you, and I wish you good luck with your school, with the Dragon Academy.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, I see you around in the Facebook groups, Maofen and the chat box.
Hopefully I'll talk to you maybe one more time in the future. Maybe I will ask you to this time. Maybe I will interview you, because it was only me, or mostly me speaking. So maybe, I will invite you.
That would be amazing.
Yes, so
That would be amazing.
yeah, see you next time.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
But